Most scientific calculators will have a little bit of algebra capability, so you can get them to solve equations for you. It's usually easier to just do it by hand, but in case you're curious about what your calculator will likely be able to do, if you have this exact model, then you're all set. And most of the Casio calculators will work like this as well, but frankly, any scientific calculator is probably going to be able to do the same things. We've got a quadratic equation here, 18x squared plus 39x plus 15. I went ahead and factored it and solved it by taking those factors and solving them as linear equations. But if I needed some, well, if for whatever reason I wanted to see if my calculator could do it, this would be how I do it. So you go to the mode key and you'll click that twice, or 3 times, I guess. Click that, and then you want EQN. So we will hit a 1 to get that. Once you do that, these options come up. So this could solve, I think it could solve an equation with up to 3 unknowns, but that's not really relevant here because I only have 1 unknown. It's just 1 variable. So I'll click next over and look at the degree options. It can solve a quadratic or a cubic. This is a quadratic equation because the highest power of the variable is x to the second power, and then the only other one is just x to the first power, and then the next one is just a constant. So that means it's a quadratic. So we'll click degree 2. And now it will ask me to type in the leading coefficient. So when you have an equation that's in standard form, it goes a, b, c equals 0. So a corresponds with 18. And you don't need to type in x squared or anything because the calculator already knows what it's going to be. It knows that it's 18 times x squared because it's in standard form. And you need to have that if you're going to use a calculator for this. You can't type it in factored form, for example, this is factored form. Now, a human can easily see this and know that it's a quadratic, but a calculator is just not set up to take that. So b is 39, and then we hit equals to enter that, and c is 15. And when I hit that, it calculates the roots. Now, a root is also called a solution to an equation, and it is basically the value of x that allows the equation to equal 0. So one of these roots they give me, it's negative 0.5. That's the same as negative 1/2. And so if x is equal to negative 1/2, this equation equals 0, and that's a root. So they give me x1, and what x1 is, it's a subscript, so it's x1. They're just labeling it. And I can also scroll down because there's an arrow here that lets me know that there's a second root, and it's x2, which is this business right here, and that corresponds with negative 5/3 as a fraction. Now, one thing to remember with quadratic equations is the fundamental theorem of algebra guarantees that there will always be 2 roots. Now, these roots can either be the same number, in which case it's basically there's 1 root even though it appears twice. You can also have 2 unique real number roots, or you could also have some complex roots. So maybe you've got a quadratic and, well, actually, now that I think of it, you can only ever have, with a quadratic, you'd only ever have 2 complex roots. So basically, you could have 2 real number roots or 2 complex roots, basically, because it's a parabola. You know, it crosses the, here's your root, but you could also have this business here where it doesn't cross the real number line. So you've got roots here, but they're complex. But yeah, that's sort of more advanced than the point of this video. But anyway, that's how you solve an equation with a scientific calculator.